Tonight, immigration takes center stage as President Donald Trump's executive orders begin to be felt. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ruben Jones on a special edition of Capitol Tonight from our nation's capital as we continue to cover Donald Trump's first week in his second administration. Last night, we brought you some of the executive orders Donald Trump has already signed, but there are dozens, and frankly, we're not going to be able to fit all of them into the 22 minutes I have for you tonight. But I want to focus in on a few of these orders with significant interest to North Carolina. And we're going to start tonight with immigration because the president declared a national emergency at the U.S. southern border. And today we learned from U.S. officials that in the coming days, the Pentagon will send as many as 1,500 active duty troops to help secure the southern border. Now, their role at the border at this point is a little unclear right now, but they will join the roughly 2,500 National Guard and Reserve forces already there. In November, under the Biden administration, illegal border crossings fell to the lowest level since July 2020, when Trump was in his first term as president. Now, one reason the Biden administration says numbers were down was because of its CBP One app. That app allowed people to schedule appointments at legal U.S. port of entry to request asylum, ending the need to cross the border illegally to request asylum. Now, this week, Trump signed an executive order getting rid of that app. This is not a surprise, given what we heard from Trump in the campaign. But the concern here from some is getting rid of that app actually results in more people trying to cross the border illegally. I'll get reaction from Republican Congressman Greg Murphy about that a little bit later. Now, another way Trump changed the immigration system this week is by suspending the U.S. refugee program for at least 90 days. Now, one of the ripple effects of that cut is for Afghans who are trying to find safety in the United States following the U.S. withdrawal in 2021. We have been covering this a lot. An Afghan advocacy organization told me today that Trump's order puts at least 10,000 Afghans who already had been approved to come to the United States to settle is in limbo. Their status is in limbo right now, and that includes the status of 200 family members of U.S. service members. Now, North Carolina Republican Congressman Pat Harrigan, he served in Afghanistan, and he says he's been trying for years to get his interpreter out of Afghanistan to safety. But he told me today he supports suspending this refugee program. Why? Here's what he had to say.
But the bottom line is our national security has to come first. When Afghanistan fell, we had so many people that came into this country that we didn't know whether they were really on our side or not on our side. There was no plan whatsoever. And so to step back and say we need to pause this program, take a look at our national security while we have a genuine crisis at our southern border and with our overall immigration system, I think is a wise play.
What this Afghan organization is saying, that this also includes the families of roughly 200 service members, U.S. service members. Do you worry that it puts those people who are in Afghanistan, their lives in jeopardy, given that you know the current situation in Afghanistan? It's very dangerous for anyone who might have U.S. connections.
Yeah, I would say that responsibility lies straight and strictly with the Biden administration because they've had 3 years to get these people out and have not done that.
So the argument from that Afghan organization is that there should be a carve-out in the Trump administration for those Afghans to be able to send them over to the U.S. safely. I'm going to have more on that later this week. Now, finally, one other executive order you may not have heard of has to do with offshore wind energy. That has significant interest in North Carolina. This week, the president temporarily halted offshore wind lease sales in federal waters, and he paused approvals for both onshore and offshore wind projects. Again, not a surprise here. Trump is not a fan of offshore wind, and he wants to increase drilling for oil and gas. But offshore wind, it's gotten bipartisan support from lawmakers in North Carolina. There has been a big push for the renewable energy source off the coast. This order could slow the state's plan for offshore wind. All right, so tonight I've got interviews, one-on-one interviews with a Democrat from the delegation, North Carolina Democrat Congresswoman Deborah Ross, as well as Republican Congressman Greg Murphy. We're going to get into some of those issues I just talked about, as well as many more. We're going to start tonight.